Back in the saddle.
This is one of the UK's biggest bands, Foals. Being backstage like this is a view only a few ever get to see.
Go, you bastards!
This, however, is a film about the army of people that help put them on stage. I'm Felix White, and I was in a band called the Maccabees. I've now set up a record label, so I've seen the music industry from both sides, and the team who gave Foals their big break is one I've always looked up to.
We're not the rock stars. We have some rock stars on our label. This is Percy. Say hello.
Transgressive started with £1,000. They've since become known as Britain's definitive indie label for the 21st century.
I've worked with people who'll be like, you're going to be a star, and then it's like, you're like, cool, and then that doesn't happen.
For the first time, they've let cameras backstage, in the studio, and on a search for new talent.
It went from getting like 50 plays on SoundCloud to like just...
To see the challenges of keeping it all going.
One of the worst things I've ever experienced, to lose all that and spend a whole summer just trying to get better instead of doing what I love to do.
There have been years of survival, definitely.
Everyone is like being pushed to their limits right now.
We're going to find out how, and more importantly why, two mates wanted to take on an industry that doesn't forgive mistakes. This is How to Survive the Music Industry, the Transgressive Story.
Look at this.
It's like a giant chicken nugget.
It's
really
stunning.
Solid Instagram.
Monday morning, and attention's turned to Flume's dog.
Where is he? Percy's got almost 20,000 followers. The modern age.
That's the sort of management that you guys have to do now, isn't it?
What, managing Instagram profiles? Probably more money in it than running a record label. I don't know, maybe that's the next era.
In music, lots of business happens away from the office. Transgressive Local has seen team talks, celebrations, and your difficult conversation, like when they have to stop working with someone.
Sorry, this hasn't worked out.
That's hilarious.
You'll notice Toby's not in the meeting, it must be a dropping.
Is that how it gets played?
Wait.
The Queen of Mean comes out.
I wish I could drop in.
When we started, I was doing a printed, photocopied fanzine with a free CDR, and that was my thing. Toby was doing his own website.
Toby L, company director, Transgressive Inc. Conglomerate.
Is that an official title?
Yeah, I guess it's nothing's official when you kind of you're figuring out as you go, so it's all made up.
Yeah, that said Turd Polish. These are the opening titles for Toby's online music series, which launched in 1999, 6 years before YouTube.
You've got a website, the internet, what's that going to be? I had those conversations with major record companies. Say cheese! Is it going to work? There we go.
This band is a brand new challenge to all of us. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know where we're going with it.
I'm really confident that we can make it work, so we'd love Lady Hawk to do it if possible. Totally lied just then about having done it before and about the fact it could work.
15 years ago, we had ambition beyond our means. We didn't have any money, not really any contacts or any kind of expertise on what to do. So to fast forward to where we are in 2019 and consider the releases and the artists we're working with, it's absolutely surreal. You don't realise that the fantasy that you had as a teenager can actually become your day job.
I'm Tim Dello, co-founder of Transgressive. I said that with quite an apology. He was putting on this show which had Regina Spektor headlining, Block Party were the first on. I'd been invited down to the show by Kelly from Block Party, who I went to uni with, and I put out his first single. I was trying to get him for free, and Toby was notoriously tight on the guest list. I got his number and I think harangued him fairly solidly to start a label with me, and eventually I managed to get him down the pub, and I was like, well, I found this band, The Subways, who I knew that Toby had promoted, and I got them to kind of agree to doing a single on a new label that didn't have a name yet, and I told the manager, I was like, yeah, I'm doing it with another guy, and they're like, who's the other guy? And I mentioned Toby's name, maybe preemptively actually. And he was like, you've said the right guy there.
Got this feeling. was out watching the Young Knights play. I figured, you know what, why don't I, try getting in touch with, the people behind the band, and so I got in touch with those guys on MySpace. And yeah, they were like, yeah, when are you coming along? And yeah, I mean, time flew, and here we are, it's mad. It's split across management, records and publishing.
There are more than 600 independent labels in the UK which sell a quarter of all albums in the country. All of them will deal with these terms in some form, so they're well worth knowing. Management essentially means working across everything an artist does and taking a cut of pretty much anything they make. When someone makes music, the company that releases it is their record label. Once it's out, they look after all the money coming in and collect payment whenever that performance is used. And publishing is about working with acts before and after release to make as much impact as possible. If tracks get played on things like films, TV, video games, or other people want to perform it, the publisher collects the royalties.
We've never went bankrupt, so I think we're doing something right.
In an alternate universe, our first album came out on Transgressive, but the planets didn't align that way.
They tried to sign us, and the people who give them their money to do it said no, Tudor Cinema Club aren't good enough. So that's how we ended up with them being our publishing company, because we were adamant we had to work.
We had to work with them, and ever since they have been definitely our closest friends in the biz for over 10 years. They do the opposite of what is sensible a lot of the time. I don't think they ever think when they take an artist on board whether they're going to sell 1 million albums or not. It just doesn't matter. We have streaming and social media, so you have this instant access to numbers and algorithms, and so many people are turning their gaze towards those things as an idea of how an artist is going to do, how they're going to perform. They make projections based on gut.
Without trying to sound sob story and lame about it, like when I was at school, I felt pretty alienated by my peer group. You can't predict how or why you're going to become that kid. You just are or you aren't. And I happened to, sadly at the time, be that kid. The moment I found music and the moment I started going to shows and club nights and putting on a club night, that's when you meet your people. And it's at those junctures that your life turns around. And suddenly
Such a relief.
It is a relief.
Like someone else that is, also was massively bullied at school. That's kind of the crux of it.
Well, this is the sort of shit that happens all the time when we just get, artists coming in with brand new ideas and brand new songs before they're ready for human consumption. What a drag. He's a catatonic skin bag. What a drag. He's a catatonic skin bag.
A&R at its most basic stands for artist and repertoire. In theory, what we're doing here is something quite simple. Ben had written a batch of new songs that he wanted some feedback on, and it's the beginnings of that A&R process. He's the artist and that was his repertoire, and we're trying to get our heads around what the best next steps are.
These can be really difficult moments for an artist. You spent a year, 2 years, whatever it is, working on a song and no one's heard it, and you're just waiting on that judgment, which means so much to you. It's a really exposing feeling.
You don't always agree, but nor should you try and disagree. You've just got to be honest with each other, and it's going to be a natural conversation. A lot of the first Blind Avon album was a lot of those kind of conversations. The bargaining that went on throughout that to try and work out what that track listing was going to be and what we were going to go and record was intense. And the bargaining just involved the music. There was cash bribes. There was a lot of went into it.
It's great. It's exciting. So you've written album 4 when we were about to release album 2.
Album 7, mate.
I've been cash bribed too by the artists, so I can't get into that, but it's how it works over here.
So you like it? You like my tunes?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Sign me up.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, go on, sign me up. I'd love that.
I think he's got a shot. Like, if you want someone to, for example, write a massive big single for a record, the worst thing you can do is go, write us a massive big single for a record.
That's the mistake. Like, so many people do that, and it's the kiss of death.
It literally, it's the way that you're going to get paranoid, insecure, anxious, and it's not really.
It's the wrong word during hot sex. That's what it is. It's like, don't say, give me the hip.
3 minutes 30 exactly.
Your double chorus. I know how to make a single.
We're at Urchin Studios, and I'm here putting some drums and piano on some acoustic versions of songs from my latest record.
Once the track listing is decided, the next challenge is bringing them to life in a way that everybody is happy with.
A&Rs in the studio, it's a double-edged sword. There can be like, depending on your relationship with artists, there can be a sense of suspicion that it's the person that's coming in and trying to generally commercialise things. My role in it mainly being a kind of hype guy and kind of like just trying to give like the confidence to like, often you'll be like, is this outrageous? And I'll be like, yes, maybe push it further.
I think it's just that thing of like knowing people really well. You know how to like manage my expectations without being like a massive downer, you know, like stuff like that. But it's really important because I've worked with people who'll be like, you're gonna be a star, and then it's like, you're like, cool, and then that doesn't happen.
Just smash it. Just smash it, Marie.
Artists aren't the only people who labels have to keep on side in the studio. There's a whole team of production staff that could get upset, as Tim and Toby have found out in previous experiences.
He tried to put me up against the wall and Toby locked himself in the toilet. It was pretty shit. Yeah, and that was because we asked to listen to something. That was the thing of it. But I think we've all moved on.
The best bit's about to happen, which is everyone hearing it, getting to talk about it and tour it and all of that.
I think you've done all the recordings.
Great!
Haven't you?
Yeah, that's everything.
Time for Tim to buy you a sandwich, I think.
The day after that studio session, Marika took her new music to Brighton's Great Escape Festival, where hundreds of emerging and returning acts tease fans with what they've been working on. It's also a chance for labels to stumble across their next big signing. By the time we meet up with Transgressive on day one, they've already seen some familiar faces.
A lot of record companies, they'll see each other in a room and that's enough for them to go, oh, we should probably sign this artist, because they're scared of the other 3 people in the room signing an artist. So, I mean, if you wanted to really trick people at the Great Escape, you could just turn up to certain other gigs, exactly, create a massive smoke screen about who the hottest buzz band is. I mean, one year I was actually chatting to my friend about forming a fake hype band just to play. We need to do it.
They've also come armed with a few tricks of their own.
It's kind of like the ghost of Transgressive past, present and future tomorrow night, isn't it? It's like you've got a brand new band like Boniface and you've got Blaenavon who are returning with a second album, and then Foals who are obviously...
And potential new signings which we cannot talk about.
Well,
we can hopefully talk about in a few weeks' time.
Transgressive's gig was one of the Great Escape's most anticipated shows, but for one of their acts in particular, it meant more than most.
This might be the coolest gig I've ever done. We've done the O2 with Alt J, we've done Wembley with the Wombats, but this feels slightly different because it's the Transgressive party and they've like, I can't even describe in words like how much they've had my back. My relationship with Toby is long-winded and complicated, but all for the best reasons. And he's really, 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 like much more than a human could even do, like looked after me when, you've probably all read the letter I published about going to hospital. They visit me every day. They visit me on Christmas Day. If I'd been on any other label in the world, I genuinely don't know if I would have been able to do it.
It's more than just a band on our label, it's like family, you know, and we care about them as much as family members and we're there for them as much as family members. And, you know, I think if we can be that supportive beyond creativity, but in someone's life, then, you know, again, it's just nice to know that we can be in that place, really.
Do you think the industry does that enough across the board?
I think the music industry is still learning how to manage, you know, how to support artists properly on a you know, soulful, mental, physical level, everything really. I think it's still very early days, and knowing how best to sort of nurture and care for people.
Touring is very difficult, and the drives, the stress, everyone wants to go out all the time. I never go out ever. So you can hear me here, right?
Yeah, this might be a bit too loud.
Rock and roll. I had enough of my own shit on my plate that my food fell off the edge of the plate. There's progress, and that's all I'm looking for. I just need progress. So it's going to be a slightly busy summer, but like the perfect amount, I think.
We'll check back in with Ben's recovery later.
All right, should we try and level this place tonight?
People that, you know, you met in the early days where no one really cared or knew about their music. Several years later, you're all there together and everyone wants to share in that moment. It's unbelievable, really.
It's great to be playing Transgressives 15 years. Long may they continue. They gave us our first chance, and they've been great ever since.
I got sent the CD from Yanis because he was like, "Oh, your label's doing pretty well. I'd love to be as big as Block Party." It was like the first chat, and the general feeling was like call him up straight away and offer him like the best deal we can offer him because it's obviously genius.
We were still at university and we weren't even considering being in a band as like a profession. They were like, "We want to sign you." You can be seduced by the business aspects of being in a band or being an artist or whatever. I just don't think that's ever been us. Like, we want to keep our friends close and work with people that we trust and respect.
When we were trying to sign Foals, we had an office just up on the Holloway Road, and it was like it was an old textile factory that had been...
Wasn't it haunted?
Well, we got it cheap because there were no proper fire exits and there'd been an awful fire there. We were like, yeah, just like come and like use that whole room as a rehearsal room, which was great. So one day, they're just like running through the set. It's like, oh, we've got a showcase for Mute in like half an hour.
Yeah, we got
we're like,
meeting with Mute Records. Yeah.
Like, well, we hadn't signed them yet, and like Mute, obviously, like legendary label. They were like, oh, don't worry about it. Can I borrow a toner for the like trip to Mute? We're like, yeah. They just rinsed us. They were always going to sign with us, but they definitely took advantage of it. There have been years of survival, definitely. There are like arbitrary things to aim for, like we've never had a #1 record, which is bizarre. We've had a lot of #2s, and we've made something, hopefully, which has had some sense of cultural importance.
Special night. Thank you so much.
Radiohead turn up to see the
Colin was there in Oxford. Saw him walk out after 2 minutes. Hated it.
By the late 2000s, indie guitar bands were going out of fashion a little bit. So much so that in 2012, Q magazine asked if there was ever a worse musical climate to be a guitar band in Britain, but Transgressive were one step ahead.
When that kind of like largely London/UK scene started dissolving, we were lucky enough that we weren't tied to a mast, you know. A lot of those artists sadly started, you know, suffering a bit, and we'd kind of gone off on another UFO mission, really. It was like we were somewhere else altogether.
As other genres became more mainstream and people's taste generally became more eclectic, Transgressive began to adapt and find sounds from all over the world. Their roster now includes an African collective from the Congo, an American multi-instrumentalist fusing jazz and psych pop, and a German orchestra.
So my saxophone was just upstairs.
They also work with this Australian producer. Lots of artists, including Flume, are beginning to break the traditional album, tour, rest patterns of releasing new music. But no matter how you're putting it out, you still have to promote it.
What's up?
It's good, man. I haven't seen you in ages. Are you well?
I'm good, yeah.
This is Annie Mac's hottest record in the world.
Okay, delighted to say that we have Flume on the line.
I worked with London Grammar on this one, which was one of the big ones I really wanted to work with. We've been trying to tee it up for a while, and we finally got the chance to be in the studio together. This is what happened. It's fun. I love release day. Is it out now?
That's the pre-record, so then you'll go live in like 20 minutes or so.
Oh, nice. I don't switch off from Instagram or all the social medias, which is where you really get the feedback. It's a very calming photo for me, seeing Toby there with the little puppy. We've ended up working together for many years, and I would have gone with the major if I'd been offered first, honestly. But I'm glad I went with the indie. Very, very glad. Thank God, actually. A big label would have probably flashed a bunch of cash to me and been like, you can have all this money, and me being dumb, not realizing that it's actually just a loan. It's not real like money in the bank. This is my studio. I've had it for about maybe a year now, maybe a year and a half. I've always felt pressure, but less than ever now. So I'm just kind of having fun. Oh, here he is. What's up? What's up, dude? Hey, dude. This is Percy. Say hello. I've seen friends in bands and things that have been signed to a major label, and then made all this material, and then the label A&R doesn't want them to put out any of the maybe 20% of what they made, but it's the least favorite 20% of the bands, and then they force this band to put out an album of music that the band barely even likes, to the point at the end, and then they finally get out of these contracts because they get dropped or something, and then they put out amazing music. And it's like, that's not the case for everyone. It's just, I've seen it happen before. Thanks for coming by. I'll see you next time.
There are no rules with the indie major thing. It's like, we're independent by definition because, we're not owned by a major corporate group, if you will. But we've always flirted and collaborated deeply with major companies.
There's great people there.
I set up my independent label, Yalla Records, with a friend who works at a major. Some people assume that majors are more focused on money than looking after talent, but there's lots of people from both independent and majors looking to support the next wave of great new music. Being only 3 years old, we're at our relative hands-on infancy as a label, or hands-off in this case, as I refuse to put this banner up.
Welcome to the music business.
Yeah, brilliant.
They're just sort of omnipresent, really, in terms of any of the shows or circles that you'd be running in. Tim and Toby would kind of form part of that in some way, shape or form.
And before it even become a thing, and not even the first night here or anything.
No, I hadn't released anything.
We thought, no, we'd done nothing. We'd done nothing.
Yeah.
We phoned Tim, and Toby just said, do you mind talking us through it? Like, are we mad to be doing it? Yeah. Is this an idea? When there ain't nobody lately, what the hell's he trying to prove? Like,
good friends within the industry who were very clear that this was a terrible idea.
Yes.
Us doing this label.
I would say 9 out of everyone but Tim and Toby maybe.
Yeah.
Were clear this is a poor idea. It's a weird thing to say, but the buzz is almost actually more when you see the records in the shops than it was when you're being in a band, because you've actually understood like the logistics of actually physically getting it in there. Do you know what I mean? When you're in a band, you just sort of like, our records magically appear.
Any sort of sense of respect I had for those guys 15, 16 years ago, or whatever it was when I first met them, is just so elevated now, because you know what it takes to be to do it for that long and at that level.
For Marika's new album, the next step is building anticipation towards it.
Whatever kind of stage of the album campaign they're at, it's my job to keep in contact with the artists and make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be. It's just the AHF that's gone out. We wanted to let fans know that something was happening. Just starting to see comments coming in saying, oh my God, is this new music? I'm so excited. Marika artwork has come in, so there's track listing on the back. The industry is modernising so quickly, and it's so different from how it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There's no one-size-fits-all plan. There's no set way of doing anything anymore.
At The Great Escape, the team hinted they were interested in some new talent. Back in London, they're closing in on that signing.
The key artist we were there to take a look at was Arlo Parks.
Arlo picked up management and lots of interest after being backed by BBC Music Introducing. With loads of labels also keen to work with her, this would be one of Transgressive's toughest signings yet.
I've had like quite a few meetings with like a lot of different types of labels and a lot of, it's been quite a new experience for me as well, because like it went from getting like 50 plays on SoundCloud to like just playing a feature showcase thing for BBC Introducing, and the Transgressive guys are coming down, checking it out. I'm very excited. I'm a bit nervous to be like trusting my work with other people because I'm kind of used to doing it by myself.
Signing your first deal is a scary moment for any artist. You're very aware that this is a tipping point moment in your life. If you get it right, the artist and label can thrive. Make the wrong choice, and it can go downhill quickly.
There's that one, and then which is 15, and then there's also the which one is great, that one as well.
We always get Tim on camera doing the awkward contract bit, don't we?
We made her a really good offer straight away, which I think like lots of people, I mean I don't want to give away all the like trade secrets, but lots of people like and take time to justify things to other parties and stuff, where we were like, here's a really good position. Very different from the deal we ended up signing with her, but she knew that we were deadly serious. She was offered stupid money for a deal. We offered her like sensible money.
We still have to, make sure that you're aligned on, what you're trying to achieve, what the artist is trying to achieve, how we're going to do this together, and how we're going to work together, like pretty much every day for the next, 20 years plus.
I wanted to join a family, not just some huge corporate crazy machine thing.
That always hit my head, yay!
Explaining where we are, what we're doing now.
I don't know.
Okay. Is that the general gist of an album launch then?
Where are we?
I just follow Grace.
Some people think like, oh, they'll be worried about who their album clashes with, who they're on the same release date. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I worry about that. And it's not because, like, for a bigger artist, that's like, oh, who's going to be the chart battle for the top spot? I don't really worry about that because I'm not ever going to be fighting for like a #1, but it certainly like affects your press and like the amount of attention, and if people can only cough up for like one record that week or something, then they might buy someone else's rather than yours. So if you have like a really clear week, it feels like it's really like your space to just like have everyone get like all the attention on me, which is obviously what I prefer. And it means that you probably will chart higher. Like, at least. Hello.
Hey, Grace. Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Hi, Marika. Nice to meet you.
Our new record's got 4 stars in the Times today.
Yes, I just got told that.
Yeah, incredible. Bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Marika, you're going to perform your second single from the album, The One. Marika Hackman, over to you.
Sold out. I've given up my soul now. Thought that I could be unique. Forget it, I'm just so weak. Love me more.
Oh, look what I have here.
Need to be a dog.
Sing your hands and together, all for one and one for all.
I'm not what you want. Leave it all. Leave it all. Thank you.
It's an exciting day. Big old album out.
People always say as an artist that, your record is your baby. But you feel the same way, like when you work in such a small team and you take on so much of that responsibility. I feel like an aunt to the record. We look after each other, we look after our artists a lot. It has to be care and trust first. All the good stuff follows.
My baby. Next Blind Heaven show, cracking this guy out. Yeah, it's sick. I had a bit of a hard time again and had to cancel lots of shows, unfortunately. So The Great Escape was the last show of the year, which it wasn't supposed to be. One of the worst things I've ever experienced, to lose all that and spend a whole summer just trying to get better instead of doing what I love to do. We, you know, fell out at times over the summer about what was going on because I wanted to just go like full throttle the whole time. And then Transgressive and my care coordinator were like, no, that's a really bad idea in case you kind of fall off the edge again. It was either that or scrap the whole thing. It's just such a ridiculous job for a young person to do, or for any person to do. I've just been counting down every day over summer until this record comes out. It's been like the beacon of light in my life all year that I've been waiting for.
Despite announcing the album at the start of 2019, the band and Transgressive eventually landed on releasing it in October.
It was much more difficult than the first one, but this wasn't for like lack of songs.
There was never a point where I thought I'm not going to be able to deliver. It was more, am I being responsible if I carry on because of Ben's health? But then there was something good that came out of that, and I know the experience was hard for all of us, but I think it helped him. You have the opportunity to make your second record, and not many people get to do that. And I was there to help them achieve that, no matter what we were kind of going through. One of the songs on the Blind Evan record is a song called Everything That Makes You Happy. And I wanted him to kind of really let go and almost scream, everything that makes you happy, everything that makes you happy. It was almost like kind of a release. The younger artists, the more inexperienced artists need a different approach, but so do artists who are sort of on their 5th or 6th record. And it's quite surprising to me, kind of the level of emotional support that they might need. I think one of the reasons Transgressive ever had the longevity and staying power in the industry as an independent record label is because they do exactly what the artists and the people involved in the projects need them to do, which is kind of give you creative space but be there for you in the trenches. It is actually quite rare what they provide. I don't think there'll ever be a record as hard as that to make. Touch wood. Somewhere.
There's no real wood in here.
I want to play you the best record. I think what is actually the best record ever made. There we go. You had the song before? Really? And I just can't thank the Lord enough. So here's an amazing ink painting by a really cool girl, which she sent me like 2 years ago. Then we got some fan art. We were in such a good spot after our first album came out and after we toured it and did Shepherd's Bush Empire and everything. And then I had no idea that I was just gonna absolutely have such a hard time for like 2 years. I didn't expect that at all. I've met a lot of managers and a lot of good managers. And a lot of good labels and stuff, but there's only one for me. I remember buying Antidote from HMV in Guildford in like 2008 and it said Transgressive on the back and I was like, goals, I did it. One industry.
Yes, please. We're going to the Mercury Music Awards.
It's the Mercury Music Prize, you know.
Mercury Music Prize.
They distinguish themselves by the usage of the word prize instead of...
Because
there's only one.
Because Foals have been nominated for the 3rd time for their excellent half an album, Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost Part 1.
This is without doubt one of the biggest nights in UK music. It rewards a record as an art form rather than the amount of records sold, which is obviously the reason we all do it. I received an alarming number of calls by different members of Foals because Yanis had some kind of bizarre knife incident. Anyway, I stepped in and I'm happy to say I'm the only person who's ever been in Foals for 3 minutes.
What's your winning face?
I haven't thought about that. I'll just let it happen. Maybe. I'm hard to please. I just still feel like I have intense imposter syndrome. And, like,
Who doesn't? Do you think anyone goes to an award ceremony and thinks, I belong in this room?
Yeah, some people. You look at this list and all of the acts have labels, managers, publishers. There's a large industry behind everything. Long gone are the days of the kind of pointless hanger-on friendages that don't do anything, and it's now about, you know, people adding real value and getting rewarded for that, and, you know, growing together.
Quite like the idea that, like, in 10 to 15 years from now we'll be, you know, hopefully still active, still doing what we love with the same values, but everything's changed yet again. I mean, God knows in what ways.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have like a robot A&R person and Mike will be, you know,
always the robot A&R
or it,
person, always.
you know.
And it's all fun though, isn't it? Making it up as you go along.
Make it all up, make it all up as you go along. Well, here we go. Looks a bit quiet. We come too early.
Well, we're not doing the red carpet, are we? So
Well,
that's
speak for
okay.
yourself, mate.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We're like 2 minutes early. That's the least cool thing ever. I guess we go on in. I don't think anyone would have walked away and felt like anyone that played this evening didn't deserve to win. And like, that's the first time I've ever seen a Mercury Prize like it.
The winner of the 2019 Hyundai Mercury Prize is Dave.
So that amounts to a total of 4 nominations and still no win for Transgressive. All told, not bad for a label that started on £1,000 many moons ago. Let's end it on a general feel-good feeling thing at the end.
It just doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. It's like anyone can go up and potentially win tonight, and like that's an amazing feeling. Like that's what's great about it. It's like music feels like a barricade at times, and like anything creative or adventure feels like it could be hard to sort of get into, but it can happen. You know, and one day it'll happen for us as well.
Tim's going to hate me for saying this, but we used to play with his band, but there was one gig where they had this breakdown in a set and they had a silence, and Tim Dello said, "Let's rock!" It went from being the coolest thing in the world to the most embarrassing thing in the world, and we've never let him live it down.